learning together as you walk through the turnstiles. Children under age 7 must be accompanied by an adult. And just a reminder, there is no smoking, food, or drinks. Thank you.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Minecraft Disney World. This week we're headed back to the Magic Kingdom in Disney World, and we're going to be taking a look at another historic ride. If you've never been on it, you've still probably heard the song that plays on it. It's a small world. Now, it's a small world, sort of like the Haunted Mansion, sort of like Carousel of Progress, and a couple of other attractions. Has a history that goes back very far, and in the case of some attractions, it goes beyond Disney itself. So it's a small world, like the Carousel of Progress, which I covered a couple of weeks ago, was actually an attraction that Walt developed outside of Disney World and Disneyland for the World's Fair, the 1964 New York World's Fair. This was an attraction for the UNICEF Pavilion. It was sponsored by Pepsi. It was sort of the similar idea of Carousel of Progress, which was they got these other companies to sponsor the pavilion, other companies to host the pavilion, and then Disney designed the pavilion. And so they got to do research and development on rides, develop these rides on another company's dime. And then the best part was he worked into most of these deals the ability to ship the ride back to Disneyland when it was done so that they would have a new ride to add to the parks, which, you know, he always wanted to continuously add to it and build onto it. So this is, if you've never been on it, it's a slow boat ride that features about 300 really bright audio animatronic dolls, all children of the world, and they're dancing around and they're singing about how it's a small world and how there's unity and global peace just in general. It opened in Disneyland in May of 1966, and then the Disney World version opened on opening day in October of 1971. And now there's also a version in Disneyland Paris, Tokyo Disneyland, Hong Kong Disneyland. Essentially every Disney park's got an It's a Small World because it is arguably the most famous Walt Disney attraction ever. What was interesting was that it is this really colorful, nice ride. It was designed by Mary Blair. She was an art director on a lot of animated films like Cinderella and Alice in Wonderland. And so if you watch those and then go on It's a Small World, you could see some sort of aesthetic similarities. But beyond that, it was insanely popular. At that point, it wasn't like Disney World is today when you buy a ticket to enter the park and then you could go on as many times as you want. You had to buy tickets, and they sold 60-cent tickets and 95-cent tickets. And over the two-year World's Fair, they ended up selling over 10 million of these tickets, and they were all donated to UNICEF. And part of what made it so popular was that for as popular of a ride as it was, there was never really a long line. Most of these pavilions and these rides had these lines that just went out the door and down the block. And It's a Small World always seemed to be moving. And that's because it was sort of one of the first attractions to embrace this concept of almost like an omni-mover, where you just have constant boats going out and coming in. And so that it was, what they called people eaters. It just had a lot of people who would go through it really quickly. And this was so valuable and so successful that they actually changed the design. At the time, they were designing Pirates of the Caribbean for Disneyland, and it was going to be a walkthrough ride. And they ended up scrapping that whole design and changing it to a boat ride similar to It's a Small World so that they could get people in and out faster. And again, you'll see the development of the Haunted Mansion sort of change over time so that it more closely resembles this design as well. And then, of course, the most famous, or in some cases the most infamous part of the ride is the song, It's a Small World. And the story of that was the ride was originally going to be called Children of the World, and it was going to have the national anthem of every country that was represented playing at the same time. The problem is, and if you try this at home, take 20 songs even and play them all at the same time, and it sounds like a mess no matter how good the songs are. So Walt eventually showed the ride to the Sherman brothers, Robert and Richard Sherman, and said, listen, I need one song that could be translated into a bunch of languages, played, completely through. And as simple as the song ended up being, that was actually asking a lot. But the Sherman Brothers, if nothing else, were extremely talented, and they ended up coming out with It's a Small World After All. And Walt loved the song so much that he renamed the attraction to It's a Small World. What is interesting, though, is that the song was originally slower, and Walt sort of wanted more energy, so they just sped it up, and that's how you get the version of the song that you hear and love today, or hear and hate today. In any case, that's It's a Small World. It's another one of those rides where it's not very exciting, but it is a huge piece of history when it comes to Walt Disney World and Walt Disney in general. And I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice to not ride it if you were ever at any of the Magic Kingdoms in the world. So I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope whatever you're doing this week, you make the most of it. And I hope to see you here next week when we take another attraction and explore its history on Minecraft Disney World. Bye, everyone.